Howdy. Welcome to Osgrave Royalty. I am Justin. So, today we are talking about the refusal of the call. This is something I've been really obsessed with recently, especially starting this YouTube channel. As of this recording, I've had the channel for about 2.5 months, maybe 2 3/4, I think. I should know as the one who creates the content, but I do not know the exact date. But it's new, is what I'm trying to say. And, studying the archetypal stuff and, puts you in contact with Joseph Campbell and a lot of things, not just that, would put one in touch with Joseph Campbell. He's everywhere. In case you don't know, he put together a study of myths from all different cultures in human history, their myths, their rituals, their customs, and articulated what he calls a monomyth, which is the hero's journey. And that's something to look into if, you've been living under a rock and you actually haven't heard of that. There's plenty out there for it that's been well covered. But one particular aspect of it that I always was, I don't know, that I kind of took for granted, honestly, was this step early in the journey called the refusal of the call. And throughout all my time of hearing about the monomyth and the hero's journey, you have the ordinary life, then you have the call to adventure, then you have a potential refusal of the call. Sometimes there is none, sometimes there is, but if there's a refusal, it'll happen at this stage. Then there are there's a meeting of the mentor and the trials, and then you gain allies, then you hit the belly of the whale, you have the great ordeal, and then finally you return to the ordinary world with the boon. Boon, that thing that you've gained by the journey, and then you bring it back to benefit the ordinary world in some way. It's interesting that the end result is extroverted. Even if it's an internal change, Campbell articulated that the boon specifically helps the tribe. So it's about making the world better. And I don't know, I find that interesting, but getting off topic here. The point is, I always thought to myself, like, who in the hell would refuse the call to adventure, right? Like, if there's an opportunity, a great opportunity to do something, and you're watching a movie, and the character's like, you mean I can go see other worlds? I can do this adventurous thing that nobody around me has ever had the courage to do, and now I'm getting that opportunity? Nah, I think I'll pass. I always thought, like, how in the hell could anyone refuse, Why would they do that? That would be like a grand thing. But I get it. I get it now, having started this YouTube channel and other things. In the last season, we talked about psychic inertia, and this has to do with being stuck in your habits, right? It just change takes a lot of energy. The way I like to think about it is for an initial change to occur, there's like a curve, and it requires a tremendous amount of energy up front to get it just into space. Like, you have to blow all that chemical rocket material out just to even get through the threshold of the atmosphere, metaphorically speaking. Then once you're up there, you don't have to apply as much for so long. And then, over time it gets easier but the refusal of the call to me is like not being able to breach that initial atmosphere to even get to the adventure, right? To even get to the place where you can even be allowed to be transformed. And that's what I have a video on transformation from the last season, which I'm obsessed with transformation and really alchemy. Alchemy has to do with transformation. I'll use the terms undercooked and overcooked. Those are alchemical terms for transformation. But like being undercooked would like you try something and you don't try it, you don't give it enough chemical fuel to even know whether you like it or not. That's being undercooked. You disrespected yourself by not trying hard enough, basically. Of course, you can be overcooked and try too hard and then get burnt out and never want to touch it again. Then you've been overcooked. So that's disrespectful to yourself as well. It's all about managing boundaries. And in alchemical practice, the container is very important. Container, what is a container? It contains. What does it mean to contain? It means to provide boundaries for. So really, alchemical processes are very psychological. There's basically almost all the terms from alchemy, with my intermediate beginner knowledge of it, can be, transferred to the psychological realm in some way. And Jung wrote a lot about it. I don't know all the details yet. It's something I'm still kind of getting into. But food for thought. So I have like 100 points of energy, right? And my 9 to 5 takes up maybe 60%, even on the weekends, because weekends is R&R. And so there's time I need to recover from the task. There's mental time I need to recover, mental time I need to prepare also. So like you think about like a hour-long workout, let's say. Well, it's really not 1 hour exactly, because you have to dress, you have to get out of your clothes, dress in your gym clothes, make sure you've got all the stuff you want to bring to the gym, whatever. Then you got to drive and commute, go through traffic potentially to the gym. Then you got to come back after the hour-long workout. You got to shower. You got to take care of whatever else you need to do, decompress, put on clothes, from the gym. Now you're looking at maybe 2 hours, maybe. So 1 hour workout is really a 2 hour commitment. In the same way, that's like a 9 to 5. It's like, it's not just like, oh, I'm not thinking about my job at all when I'm off the clock. And then when 9 a.m. hits, you're like, all right, I'm in job mode. And then 5 hits and you're like, I am totally out of job mode. Hell, I don't even know if I have a job. No, it's not that night and day. You're worried. You think about, you're mentally preparing for the next day. You're mentally decompressing from the day that you just lived. So it's not just 9 to 5, right? It's elusive. It's more blurry than that. So, basically it's 60% of like the 100 points of like active brain thinking. Then you got like 20%, which is like your day-to-day errands, paying bills, budgeting, cleaning the house, all that stuff. And then you got about 5% for like R&R. Or I'm saying but I'm talking to myself. And then like 5% for wargaming and planning. I like the term wargaming, where you just plan for your future, right? Maybe the fact that that's 5% is like a fault of mine. And look, these aren't precise numbers. I'm just thinking out loud here. And maybe there's some percent for, I want to exit the rat race, which is why I'm doing these videos, which is why I started this channel. And that takes time too. That I only have 100 points, so it has to come out of somewhere. Maybe it comes out of a little bit of work motivation. Maybe I siphon some percent there. Maybe it comes out of my R&R. Maybe it comes out of, I'm not planning for the future anymore because I've decided on the action I want to take, and I'm setting aside wargaming for now and putting that percent into the channel. Maybe, and it's all loosey goosey. It fluctuates as life happens, right? Sometimes the 9 to 5 is 90% because there's a lot going on, right? Anyway, when you're in your basic like realm of energy flow and something comes out of nowhere and it's like, hey, you want to do this? Like, now refusing the call makes a lot more sense. Because, oh, you want me to pack up everything that my whole lifestyle that I've, through a million like microscopic course corrections, have finally kind of gotten a wrangle on, at least temporarily? You want me to abandon all that and go on some grand thing? Let me think about that. I don't think so. And so I have a lot more sympathy for heroes that are like refusing the call. And I love the movie Rocky, right? Did you know Rocky actually refuses to fight Apollo Creed at first? It's so funny because like as a viewer, you think like, dude, you have a huge opportunity here. Why aren't you like stoked about it? That was my initial thought. Like, what do you have to lose, Well, your whole life, basically. Because he had to transform his whole life, basically, to get ready for that fight. Right? And it's not an easy task. And that reminds me, of initiation rituals in like primitive tribes. Often there would be like, you would get buried or covered with bugs or something, as if like you're being killed and then reborn as a man of the tribe. Initiations, historically, anthropologically, are for men because men bring home the protein, and you have to have capable men to know those practices to optimize the protein gathering. Otherwise, your tribe will die off. And not just the protein gathering, but the myths and the psychology and the customs that all support that survival. That's the burden men have always carried. And initiations are there as a cheat code, for lack of a better term, to break through that psychic inertia so that you can be initiated and the tribe knows you are a man. With the absence of that in the modern age, you have an identity crisis. Yes, there are plenty of faults in the primitive tribes, but there was no identity crisis. Everyone knew where they stood, for better or worse. Yes, there's pros and cons, but the identity crisis, you could say, leads to the opiate crisis, which, think about all the effects. What's really worse? It's a debate. It's an honest question. But starting this YouTube channel, like, I know I'd be capable of doing it, similar to like maybe Rocky knew he could like have some kind of small chance. It wouldn't be like, he even tells the promoter in the scene, like, it wouldn't be a good fight, I just basically, he calls himself a ham and egger, and like, it wouldn't be a good show because Apollo, the matchup isn't, he's too good, right? Maybe he could get to a point he's turning on, but anyway, with the channel, it's like, I could cast myself through the tunnel of time and see myself succeeding, but I respect myself enough to know what it would take and what I would have to sacrifice and the kind of transformation I would have to come up with in order to make it really work, to really break through the stratosphere and give it a real go, right? And it got me thinking about, I'm looking at my notes, there's an expression that says like, your priorities are what you spend time on. Like, if you're not doing a thing, then it's not a priority. I think that's, I don't think it's very constructive, because there's this thing called from Jung called a circumambulation. I think Jordan Peterson talked about it as well. It's kind of like a thought you have or some kind of like attitude or mood. It's some kind of psychic space that you just get fixated on and you're thinking about it a lot and you're wondering about it. And as you live your life, you just find yourself coming back to it. You're rotating around it. You become orbiting around this idea. And I think it's from Hegel, who said, "There's nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come." And I love that line. And this is what I'm talking about. So even though you're not spending any time on it, it's penetrating your mind. It's like it's something you're thinking about. And it's kind of become a priority because it's taking up your psychic space even though you haven't done anything actionable on it. And I'm not just talking about big things. It could be little things that you're procrastinating on or whatever. I see the wisdom in that phrase. I just don't think that if I'm using the bathroom, yes, that's the top priority in my life, but does that mean that nothing else besides using the restroom is important to me in life in general? Absolutely not. That's straw manning that phrase. I get that. But not too much. I think abiding by that phrase too much is not productive. And this is what I bring this up because that phrase can get you stuck in like the fallacy of sunk costs, doing things that you think you should do, that you should prioritize, that society or whatever, some part of you feels like you should. Like for me, dieting and working out, I would consider it a priority of mine. But if you were to measure that by the time I'm actually doing things that contribute to that, it's a very small percent compared to everything else. Does that mean, oh, I don't care about my health then? Well, of course not. I still consider like thinking about it, planning it, it's occupying your psychic space. So it is a priority. You're kind of in like a phase where you're trying to manifest it properly for who you are in your lifestyle. And that's self-respect. Like again, you don't want to jump into something that you're not going to continue. So you need to plan accordingly. Sometimes that can take time when you're trying to plan and things come up in your life that take you away from it. And then now you're back to it. I sympathize with that. I'm not as harsh as like the self-help gurus that are like, if you're not doing it, you don't care, all that stuff. I just don't buy it. And that's like life is multidimensional. There can be, if something is at zero in your life, like you have no social life, that's going to create distortions in the other realms of your life. If all you're doing is building your career, then that focus comes at a cost, opportunity cost. But there's all these dimensions. There's friends and family, there's health, finances, your ambition, R&R, vacation, travel, whatever. They're all coming at you all the time. It's kind of like archetypes. Like Robert Moore says, each archetype wants all of you. They're very imperialistic. And the dimensions of your life can be very imperialistic. And that imperialism contributes to staying stuck. And staying stuck means you're more likely to refuse calls if they were to come. And like I said, once you get the momentum going, it gets easier. But to go from I always like I have this phrase I made up, which is 0 to 1 is the hardest. I mean, I didn't make that up, but someone probably said it, but something I came up with independently for myself. Like, if you have zero success, you're probably not going to continuing. But all it takes is one spark, and then you can nurture it, and then it can become a bonfire. But if you never get that one, which is why, like, this whole confidence things, again, Jordan Peterson, he said, confidence comes from evidence. And I really believe that. Just be confident, bro. It's all nonsense. You can't, create it ex nihilo, like out of nothing. Oh, I'll just be confident or just be happy. And Aristotle, I mean, he said that happiness is an effect of eudaimonia, which is a fulfilling life. You don't chase happiness, you chase the practical steps to reach eudaimonia, and eudaimonia will radiate happiness automatically, right? And that's distinguished between happiness and pleasure. Looking over my notes here. Yeah, I think people are too hard on each other and themselves about trying new things and not accomplishing them. You're literally venturing into the unknown. It's tiring, it's lonely, and you don't know where it'll lead. I have so much sympathy for that. For people who are at least trying something. And I'm talking to myself, like, someone could, like, I could compare myself to someone who's blowing up on YouTube in a week or something. And I'm 2 months in. I'm still early, whatever. Maybe it happens not for 10 years. I don't care. Like, I could worry about that. I'm in the unknown. I'm lonely in this endeavor. I'm the only one hacking away at this adventure that is this YouTube channel. And it's a risk. I may do everything right and still fail. I don't know. But I want to try. And whenever there's like negative self-talk entering my mind, I think back to that. Like, I'm at least trying here. So, it helps combat like those negative, self-talk. I want to talk about this, this homeostasis, this psychological homeostasis, this intense psychological inertia that was coming at me when I was like trying to start this YouTube channel. Like, look at all the energy. You know what you have to do? You have to learn AV, the algorithm, tagging. You have to somehow design thumbnails. You have to actually do the research, even though you like it. You have to do a million things that you know nothing about. Wouldn't it just be easier to just relax, And that's I sympathize. That's a lot to overcome, even for minor things. And I want to end the video with this story. I read it in a book. I think it's called Hannibal and Me. I know that's bad grammar, but I think that's the name of the book. I'll link it below if I can find it. And I'm not quoting from it. I even have the book anymore. I don't know what happened to it. But there's a story about how Hannibal was this monstrous, epic fear for the people of Rome at one point. And he had victories at Cannae. And I'm probably mispronouncing it, but Cannae is thought to be like the greatest tactical battle in history from Hannibal defeating the Romans. It was like a foggy field, and Hannibal was outnumbered and out-trained, out-equipped. We're talking about the monster of Rome. And he's, surrounded them and just hacked away on all sides, and the Roman army couldn't tell what was happening because of the fog. And it was a huge upset. But then there was another battle almost equivalently like that, where Hannibal's soldiers would push the Roman soldiers into this nearby lake, and the weight of their armor made them sink. So he was able to get an edge on that and fight on this narrow path that allowed for that to happen. So all these things and Hannibal, when he crossed the Alps and he was on Rome's kind of doorstep, basically, everyone was like, we are going to be conquered. Like, he has proven time and time again to do these miraculous things, defeat the Roman army and all that. And he was on his way. Hannibal was on his way. But then he and his army sacked a nearby wealthy trading province near Rome. I'm blanking on the name of it. But it was an incredibly wealthy part of Rome, like Rome's territory in Italy. And then Hannibal just stayed and soaked up that wealth. And then he stayed a little longer, and a little longer, and a little longer. And then that gave time for Scipio Africanus to do the Carthage strategy, which is, it reminds me of StarCraft. If you can't beat him in battle, don't fight him. Simply attack Carthage. So Scipio bypassed Hannibal, went right for Carthage. Carthage is like, get back here. The politicians are like, we are under attack. Hannibal, we're recalling you. By that time, the whole flow of the battle, the years that had passed of Hannibal and his army just eating up the luxury in this wealthy province or whatever, Hannibal was defeated by Scipio Africanus. So, and it reminds me of that phrase in The Dark Knight Rises. Bane says, "Victory has defeated you," and that reminds me of what happened here. That, like, Rome was right there. Think of all that Hannibal had done. Rome was right there, and he stopped. Like the refusal of the call. Psychic inertia is very powerful. And if Hannibal can't finish his goals, like, again, I have sympathy. But on the opposite side, I also have tremendous respect. It puts success in a plateau higher. Success is almost a trite word to say, like, they succeeded. Well, no, success with a capital S came with a million little s successes and a lot of chemical rocket material being burned to try and get to that point, right? Again, if Hannibal can be defeated like by the refusal of the call, then we can. But that just shows what a massive thing it is to even attempt the journey, right? And I was like Hannibal before starting this channel. And I was comfortable. Not that I loved my life. I do love my life to an extent, but it wasn't like, I'm done. I have nothing else to do. I'm good. It was just comfort was my adversary. Comfort was the refusal of the call. That I did not expect a refusal. You think, I refuse, stop, I refuse. No, it's not like that. It can come in many different forms. It can come in the form of procrastination, distraction, or comfort, right? Comfortable, not with where you're at in life, but comfortable in kind of a pleasurable, like you're eating a lot and all that, like Hannibal, right? Yeah, I'm ranting now, but I think y'all get it. Anyway, I thought that was a good story for illustrating the refusal of the call, and I mean, it's a whisper that constantly whispers to me, like, do I continue the channel? Yes. I have to say yes all the time to keep that psychic inertia at bay, but it gets easier all the time as the little s successes build up, hopefully to the big S. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed the video. That's it for now. I'll see you all in the next one. I look forward to your comments below. Take care. Bye-bye.